Welcome to the Morning Smiles podcast. In these episodes, we discuss with other business professionals about the world of making conscious decisions, especially in social settings like conferences and work events. Morning Smiles isn't just a podcast, it's a movement from the visionaries behind Sober Life Rocks. Join us for stories and discussions that celebrate conscious living and, most importantly, keeping you smiling. Whether you're on your commute to or from work or just seeking some inspiration, we're here to make sure that you have a bright part of your day. So stay positive and remember, making the right choices today means smiling tomorrow. We are on this journey together with Morning Smiles.
Good morning. I'm Margie Schaller, co-founder of Sober Life Rocks. I want to welcome you today and let you know that you are not alone. How many of you have been in those situations where the alcohol-forward events at conferences or business parties have made you feel isolated? I know I have. But through this podcast, we're changing that narrative. We're here to create a community where individuals like you who choose not to drink or drink less can find camaraderie, support, and practical advice. Let me introduce you to my friend, Jonathan. I thought the challenges that I faced at meetings were unique, but now I know that these are shared by many of you. So, Jonathan, let's get this conversation started. You and I have known each other just for a short amount of time, but I feel like you're the sort of person that I've known forever. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to our guests?
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here and spreading awareness and additional insight to something that's not commonly discussed, but I think it's going to be making waves of discussions moving forward. So I'm Jonathan Bonanno. I go by JB for short. I am also known as Chief Psycho, mainly because I am an IO psychologist. I've been working in healthcare for a little over 13 years, and I've been dabbling in dentistry for the last almost 6 now. And I get to have a lot of fun in the world of talent acquisition and talent optimization. So lots of fun in hiring, staffing, and retaining employees.
Wow, that is amazing. So you said IO psychologist? What is that?
Yes, so IO stands for Industrial Organizational Psychology. So we focus on employee workplace health and the well-beings of the individuals that support the organization.
Wow, and how did you even get into that?
So it's funny, I started my career actually wanting to go in the direction of becoming a plastic surgeon. And throughout
Oh,
my high school, yeah, throughout my high school career, I had taken all of the prerequisites for college. I was going into a nursing program. So that way I can start getting some experience from the language, the conversations, the interactions. And by the time I graduated as a senior in high school, I was a certified nursing assistant. So I was already doing clinical trials in the hospitals that I was surrounded by. I was working in different convalescent homes and as well as in hospice facilities. But during that time, in that short window, I quickly learned that odors, bodily fluids, anything related to that was not my cup of tea. So if I couldn't handle like a simple bed sore or seeing and smelling blood, I was not going to be the best plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills like I had envisioned for myself to be.
no, no.
So I decided to take a year and a half off of school actually at that time. And I was raised by my mom, and my mom is always focused on continuing education. So once you finish high school, you go to college, get a degree, then you go to work and you stay at work.
Hmm.
So knowing that, I decided to take a step back from school, took that break, and started working and looking at different avenues in my career that I really wanted to hone in on and understand and really grow myself in. And that's when I joined the corporate worlds of healthcare and fell in love with the business side. I spent 6.5 years within McKesson and CVS Health, mainly in the implementations capacity. So I started off in patient assistance programming, supporting pharmacists and pharmacology experts in how to process these claims for these assistance programs.
Hmm.
That then led me into the world of implementations where I was launching and deploying products. Anytime you see one of those funny, quirky infomercials about take Cosentyx if you're suffering from psoriasis, I was one of the guys behind the scenes launching and deploying those products and programs, which then ultimately led up into what I'm doing today. I actually found myself in a position where values and way of being were just words on a wall, and it
Hmm.
wasn't anything other than that. So
Mm,
I really wanted to shift how we look and feel and create ourselves in the workplace by really dabbling into the psyche of how we operate as individuals. Working so heavily in the implementation and project management space, we then start looking as people as projects and tasks. And really, they just become the pushers of those projects and tasks. Well, that shifted the way that people were operating and respecting and communicating with one another in a large corporate setting. I didn't like that. I lost
yeah.
the connection to my team. I lost the connection to the people because it just became very guarded in many senses. You have roles, you have tiers. It was a very hierarchical composure, so you follow them.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I wanted to go beyond just the accomplishment of a project. I wanted to see how we as people are operating to get to that outcome that we're looking for, which led me to the world of biopsychology. So during that time, I graduated with my bachelor's and master's, and all were emphasis in business management. Now I'm focusing on the people side. So understanding the psychology of both people and business and how we align
Wow.
both of those together.
Wow. I knew you were going to be a good guest. I didn't know you were going to be a great guest. That is
Ah,
an amazing background as a underlayment for our conversation. So
yeah.
let's just take a moment. I want to shift from now the professional journey to more of your personal. And then maybe when we come to the end of that, we'll look at the marriage of those two and why we're talking today. So talk to me about your upbringing and maybe the underlayment of where alcohol fit in that upbringing.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is probably one of the more vulnerable conversations that I've not ever really had with anybody else. So I'm keeping this as a safe space for us and those that are listening.
Yeah.
Um, I've not had the best relationship with alcohol growing up. I grew up in a family of four where one parent was both parents and played both roles as best as she could. My mother is an amazing human being. I am who I am because of her today, and I cherish all of my results and my success is all for her.
Nice.
She made a lot of sacrifices growing up. I have a younger sister, and unfortunately, my father never caught up to what it was necessary or what was needed to be a dad
Yeah. Yeah.
in the world of traditions, I would say. So, growing up, alcohol was always kind of the bad taboo in our household. My mom had a zero tolerant, um, really, I would say, capacity in the household because my father was just a severe alcoholic. And he
Mm.
wasn't somebody that could pop a bottle or pop a can and be good and catch a buzz. It was, going to get to the point to where I can no longer handle myself. I can no longer stand up and walk around. So
Yeah. And I
growing up
appreciate you
in,
sharing that because it's a story that, many people have with one parent or the other parent. And, I myself had an alcoholic mother and I look back today and I think to myself, like, she didn't have the tools that we have today, and she didn't have the
right,
support that we have today, and she didn't have people who are willing to talk about it as, a condition that is is not shameful.
yes,
It's
exactly.
problematic, but it's not shameful.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So
So
carry on. Sorry.
yeah, no, you're fine. So with that, my mom is somebody that will give you everything that she can to support you and make sure that you feel supported. So growing up with an aggressive alcoholic, at times verbally and sometimes physically abusive with me, dealing with those types of conditions and living situations, I feel as though it could have painted two very clear paths for me to take. You go
Yeah.
down the road of alcohol and follow those same habits and create those same patterns, or you completely go against it. And that's what I chose to do. Um, I have never been somebody that I would say is, for lack of better terms, you're never going to see me sloshed on a floor. I've always been very self-aware for my limitations. But as I've gotten older, as I look at how alcohol really plays a relationship in my upbringing and some of the triggers that I even have today as an adult, it doesn't make me feel good. I don't feel good from it. I have medical conditions myself that don't mix well with alcohol. So that creates what I like to call the internal hangover. That's not just the alcohol hangover that you get in your head. It's the bodily stuff that ends up happening. I have IBS, I have acid reflux, I get migraines. Though alcohol is a huge trigger for all three of those things for me. So I've always had to be very mindful of how much I am consuming, not only from, I would say, the legacy information, the history with my family, but also with what I want to be drinking, consuming, and presenting and portraying myself as. When we first had an opportunity to sit down, Margie, I mentioned that I was looking back at photos and looking back at events, and you have the vampire eyes where it's just like the dark beadiness, or you have a drink in hand and you're hot and you're sweaty, and it's like that is not how I looked when I first went out, right? So it's a lot of that that has bubbled up to my decision inside of going more of a soberish lifestyle until I can hit the sobriety state that I'm really looking for, is just have a lot more clarity. Personally, I'm looking for more
Mhm.
experiences, a lot more fun and enjoyment than I do want to be bedridden the next day because you drank too much or you just don't
Yeah.
feel good. And that's everything that's kind of led up to my decision to really shift where I want to be spending my time and shifting what I really want to be consuming these days.
Yeah. But if I'm reading between the lines correctly, it sounds like you do go out and you do have fun and you do drink and all that's fine. But what are some of the things that you've noticed both for your own internal voice and or other people in terms of the feeling that you get when you're out with people regarding what you should be consuming?
Yes, great question. Great question. Definitely between the lines. So when it comes to that, I am very much like an empathetic, introverted, extroverted introvert in many terms. I like to be
Mhm.
around people. I like the energy of individuals, but I'm
Me
also
too.
a huge homebody. So
Me too.
I'm okay like going back to my room or going and hanging out and being by myself. Like my independence is my solitude at times. However, what I did notice as well as I was going to different events and networking groups and seeing ways to just expand what you're learning and what you're growing and the people that you're rubbing shoulders with, I found that I was also having to be at a bar every single time I wanted that to happen, or there had to
Tell me
be a
about that.
drink.
Tell me what that means.
Yeah.
Like, walk me through a scenario. Like, okay, you're at a conference and the event has ended, and everybody's walking out of the last meeting room. What happens?
Yeah, so naturally, I see if you have the bar set up in there, you either see the lines begin to form or you start hearing the plans getting planted. And that's where are we going to go next? Where do we want to go? It's still early. The night's still young. Let's go have fun. We don't want to go to sleep yet. So you get caught up in all of that fun energy and excitement of you're with your friends, you're with your peers, you're with your colleagues. Awesome. We just sat through 8 hours worth of lectures. Our brain is ready to explode with the amount of learning that we just had. Now we want to
Mhm.
decompress. Oftentimes that decompression comes with a couple shots, a couple beers, cocktails in hand. And when we start making our way and start planning, like, okay, great, we're all going to meet over at AZ Bar down the street, and we're going to start there, and then we're going to go bar crawling. And that's super exciting because you're with your people. But then it comes the expense of, well, great, now I have to continuously drink this entire time until everybody's ready to tap out, essentially. And
Mhm.
having to walk with the crowd in those areas, I've done it. I mean, I've done it countless of times, but I also won't be consistently drinking the entire time I'm there. And I started recognizing the last three events that I've been to this year. How long am I staying out? Who are the people that I'm hanging out with? And where are we going to hang out?
Okay.
And when I look back at it, it was bars, 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 clubs, groups, settings, awesome, cool.
Mhm.
Love that.
Mhm.
I love the music. So I'll go and listen to music. I love to dance, love to have a good time. But it gets to the point where we just have lost our control. And that's where I no longer wanted to really be engulfed in or entrenched in. Not to say that the people that I was surrounded with are that, it's the other people
The
beyond that
scene.
that exactly, it's the scene in itself that I've just never been really a part of. I don't like to sweat. I don't want to be hot. I like to dress nice. I don't want to have somebody trample all over my white shoes, it's those quirky little things that I enjoy inside of
And you
going
are a
out to be
snappy
with
dresser for
people.
sure.
Yes. Thanks, Margie. Thank you. But it was really that. It was the destination of continuing the night. Did the destination have to be a bar? So now that I'm reassessing what I want to prioritize and where I'm thinking the opportunities are to move into from the events is looking at different experiences we can create. Rather than let's go bar hopping, maybe there's a cool exhibit. Maybe they have like one of those wonder museums with all the lights and all the objects and spherical things that you can touch and feel and take cool photos in without having a glass in hand, being super sweaty, or not being proud of the moment that's being shared or posted around social media. Because not only that, you have all these marketing and videographers that are at these events, and that's the last thing that I want to be caught off guard in is in that, perception is reality in many cases. And I want to make sure that I'm creating a safe space for other people to feel felt understood and seen without having to have a drink in hand to hang out with me.
I love that vision. And you're younger than I am, so you are with some of the cool young kids. Um, Let me ask you, really, if you floated that idea to your crowd of people that you run with, what do you think that their reaction might be?
A lot of it has actually been positive because most of the time, the people that I am looking to connect with and hang out with more closely or intimately, we're looking at, okay, where are we going next? Where can we go to leave this place? And usually we always find ourselves where we're wanting to be. I think there was one time where was I? I was at the Hinman in Atlanta this year. We were tired of going to the bars and drinks and all that stuff that was happening after hours. We made our way to a bowling alley. And then we found out the bowling alley that they had a private event, so we couldn't bowl. But then we just decided to walk around Atlanta. And that was something that was fun for us to do because we got to see and explore a state that none of us have been to yet. So that's what I would love to do. And that's the feedback that I've received so far for some of my friends and colleagues is they just want to
I
go
think
hang out and explore.
that's amazing. I love that idea. In a conversation you and I had previously, we talked about some of the other fun ideas that we thought of. Can you share some of those with me?
Yeah, so I'm a big walker, and I shared this with Margie. I know at night it's a little dark, so we don't want to be walking the streets all the time. But I'm a huge walker. I love to go walking and exploring as much as I can, sightseeing. I'm a big architecture guy, so looking at buildings is boring, but it's fun for me. And if you
Especially when
like
they're lit up at
design,
night.
yeah, exactly. Right now is a
Yeah.
perfect time to go exploring for all the light. Um, but that's something that I absolutely love to do. I've done axe throwing; those are great experiences and exercises. One of my
Especially
favorite
not
one was,
drinking, right?
yeah, not drinking at all. I've seen videos when that goes south. And then one of my favorites was a smash room, and this is something that I did both at an event and as a team exercise. So I had recently joined a new team. We were like finding fun ways to just get expressive and explosive. What better way than to go to a smash room and do that? So
So
that
I've
was
heard
a
of those, but not
huge,
everybody has. Can you describe what a smash room is?
yeah. So think of like an empty office or empty warehouse building, and there's just a bunch of equipment, like random keyboards, there's mouses, there's computers, there's monitors, there are bats, there are plates, there's tons of anything that you could think of that's breakable is in there. So then they put you in a big old painter's costume, and then they give you the big old goggles, and they say, all right, you got an hour, get to smashing. So they have a little timer above the door that you'd exit, and they
Hmm.
have loud music that you can play through the Bluetooth radio that you can hook up your rock music, your country, your house music, whatever it is that you're interested in listening to. You can
Hmm.
have that running while you're just banging a bunch of stuff out. So it was really cool
Oh
because
my
I got to
gosh.
see my boss at the time. We had a really rough week with an implementation client. So we had Sharpies in there too. So we were writing Sharpies of the client that were like, we're
Hmm.
no longer doing this, breaking that away. We're no longer having these types of conversations, tossing it against the wall. So it was a nice, like, freeing experience too. And it was just a lot of fun to see people get chaotic.
That's amazing. I love that. Now, what if you could wave a magic wand? A lot of these conferences, they have their own after parties. They may be hosted by a sponsor, or they may be where you pay at the bar or whatever. What could you envision that you and your friends would enjoy doing at these types of hosted events that
Mm,
would be inclusive of both people who wanted to have that after meeting drink and those who didn't? What could you envision?
yeah, I would love to see more of like a lounge style of experience rather than it be like we're in the event space, we're still kind of uppity, we've not yet relaxed and decompressed yet. And if we were able to transition into more of like a lounge style of setting, the lights are a little bit more dimmer, the music isn't blasting, you can have intimate conversations without people beside you really hearing them. I would love to see that. A little bit more lights going on, have either the music streaming with a video or having some cool visual effects going on too. I'm very much into like the moody light settings. So anytime we can have those warm, intimate spaces, that's what I'm all for. And I would love if they had like a mocktail setup station or even something to where you can, everything's mocktails and you're going up to another section or bar station to get the type of alcohol of your choice, whatever you're looking for. But if that
Mm-hmm.
becomes the baseline, then now that the alcohol portion of it becomes the custom request. So how could we create that cool vibey type of experience where everyone's decompressing, we're reflecting on our day, we're enjoying our time, and then planning our next stage from there. And that'd be great too. Is here are some things to do if you're new to our city. Check out these spots, check out these spaces. We're at all these beautiful hotels. They have these concierges. We can leverage them and utilize them a lot more. And that's one way to do it is bring them into those safe spaces.
I love that. As a matter of fact, at Sober Life Rocks, one of the things that we're doing for our members is that for every conference that we know of in our industry, we're putting together a short list of local coffee shops, local restaurants that we have vetted at least have a mocktail bar option, and maybe some of the local attractions that people might enjoy during downtime. We don't want to take people away from the conferences, but once the conference is over, what fun things can we do? So I think that's an awesome
Yeah.
idea for anybody in any industry, is like talk to the concierge and see what options there are. Or before you go to a conference, do a little legwork of your own and figure out if there's some fun places that you could explore.
Yeah, exactly.
So now I want to shift the conversation a little bit to more of your kind of professional expertise, because as somebody who works with employees, you probably have seen some stuff about wellness and mental health as it relates to this. And I'd love to hear you share kind of your thoughts and expertise in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I absolutely loved being a part of in my corporate world was anytime I could be a part of an employee resource group to learn, educate, and further the message, I was always raising my hand and I was always in those types of groups and committees. And a part of that, I started recognizing that some of the larger leadership teams, as we were moving to events or as we were traveling to go work with a client, and then we would go decompress by going somewhere else afterwards, we would always talk about how stressful it was. We would talk about the anxiety that we felt. We would talk about the constant added stress that we would be interpreting or inheriting following that event.
Mm.
So when we started talking and actually sitting down to recognize like, well, why do we feel this way when we're working? Why is
Mhm.
this the feeling that we have when we're working? And now we're trying to coat that with alcohol and we're covering it all as if it's going to just go away and the problems are going to be fine. We know that alcohol is a downer. So when we're depressed, oftentimes we're still looking for the bottle or looking for anything, and that still keeps us low. So what I noticed inside of just focusing on the mental health aspect, I'm a huge mental health advocate. The more that we're mixing, I would say, the pills and potions to coat the way that we're feeling or the impacts of our work only furthers the issue. And it doesn't further the issue as far as it's going to last forever. It furthers the issue with you. So then you get to choose whether or not it's going to last forever with you. So I think with alcohol, there are addictive behaviors. People suffer from
Mhm.
addictions. It's true, it's real. I would say that my dad's a great example of it. And you have your opportunity and ability to shift the way that you want to if you choose to, if you can. So when we look at the
Mhm.
mental health piece, I'm going to use my dad as a great example. I would say he's a prime example as for this. He is not somebody that can be counted on. He's not accountable. He's not reliable. He has completely committed his life to alcohol. That is
Mhm.
what drives him. That is what his motive is. That is what lights him up every single day. So when that becomes your motive, what happens in the workplace is no longer relevant. What happens wherever you are in a community is no longer relevant. And I say relevant because they're not a thought.
Yeah.
It's not a consideration. It's not
Yeah.
a way of being. It's not a feeling. It's nothing. It is, how do I get my next drink? I
Yeah.
mean, that becomes the issue. And what we realized after sending my dad to multiple therapies, multiple treatment centers, AA constantly, it was a psychological issue that he's dealing with. It is a
Yeah.
much, much deeper rooted issue than it is to just saying, I like to have a drink here and there. There are traumas and triggers that my father has gone through in his own life that have contributed to him being the alcoholic binge drinker that he is. So when we look at the layers, I also pull in CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which in
Mhm.
essentially I can break down as just pattern behavior. When we look at those patterns and how those show up, sometimes we don't even recognize that they're happening. They're happening to us, not for us in most cases. And they're also inherited in many ways. So if I
Mhm.
know that alcohol, if I was born knowing that alcohol is a sin or bad, it's terrible for you, I'm probably never going to touch it. I'm never going to drink it, never going to sip it, unless I'm, of course, on the curious spectrum where I want to. You say no, well, I'm going to figure out why I can't, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing that has shown up with some of the individuals that I've met that have suffered from alcohol. And a lot of it has been internal family members that have this type of relationship with it. So, looking at it from a mental health space, I feel like we look at social media at times as a perception of something that really isn't true. And it also paints the picture that, oh, if you just have a drink, you'll be fine. Maybe you
Yeah.
just need to get the hair of the dog or take the stress off your shoulders, lighten up a little bit. The shot of tequila will help do that. It's
Yeah.
not doing anything but coating it.
I mean, I think that alcohol is painted in two different lights in today's society. The first is that it is that glamour. It's the if you have a drink in your hand, that you must be cool, this must be fun, that you must be sexier, that you must be more attractive. And the other side of it is alcohol will be the cure to all of your problems. If you're stressed, if you're upset, if you're tired, if you've had a long day, if somebody has spoken to you in the way that offends you, alcohol is going to cure that.
Mhm.
And in thinking through both of those, the first one is I don't know why we can't be fun and glamorous and sexy and more attractive without alcohol in our hands. And if we
Right.
can't, then is it that we're trying to be inauthentic?
Mm,
Like, I'm not that person. I'm not the woohoo, let's like be the life of the party. I'm fun and I love having fun, but I'm not the life of the party person.
mm,
So when I drank, that's what I was trying to become. And
mm.
that's not the authentic me.
Yeah.
Turns out that people like me for who I am. I was terrified. I was terrified that nobody would like me.
Yeah.
But the people who like me today are the people that I like too. And so
Right.
I'm having these much more authentic relationships with people than I ever did.
Yeah.
On that flip side, for me, alcohol was a band-aid
Mm,
because I had my own childhood traumas and I had all of these boo voices in my head, and alcohol was the way to quiet those things. So I never dealt with them. Anytime that those feelings would come up, I would have a drink to cover them. Again, I was not becoming the best version of myself by covering those things for all those decades. Is it fun to go through that stuff and unpack it and look at it and walk through it? No, no,
Yeah.
not fun. And the work continues. And today I don't have that level of pain. Today I don't have that level of shame and of dread and all that. I'm lighter. It's easier.
Yes. Yes.
So, for somebody like me, I can't ever drink alcohol again. It would just be a bad path. But for somebody like you or others, if we can change our relationship with alcohol to not be one of these extremes and rather an occasional thing that we enjoy for whatever reason, I just feel like we as a whole, as a society, as people in business events, we can be so much more ourselves, and it's a relief.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And I think part of my decision inside of going this route was what you touched on, the authenticity part. Am I being the authentic version of Jonathan, or am I being the authentic version of what people think Jonathan should be or could be or is? And
Mm-hmm.
what I'm standing for. It's not how I want to be represented anymore either. Not with not with that a relationship, I would say, because
Yeah.
it definitely plays a role inside of how you start showing up. You see yourself emulating things that maybe aren't really aligned with you, or you're doing things that are said that are the right things to be doing or created, and then you follow it, and then it's just feels icky to you at the end of the day. It doesn't feel like you. So I love that you're focusing on the authenticity part, because so many more people show up in the way that they just want to be loved and seen and felt and freed just for who they are. So let them be who they are and stop telling them who they need to be.
Yeah. And quite frankly, our focus really is on professional gatherings. And for me, getting on an airplane, leaving my family, going, staying in a hotel room, dealing with all the stuff about travel, which is no fun anymore. The whole reason I do it is not for the education, because quite frankly, I can get that online, but it's for the networking.
Right.
And if I'm networking with a bunch of people who are showing up as something as they're not, or are behaving in ways that they ordinarily wouldn't, then I'm missing out on them.
Right.
I want that connection. I want those conversations with people to show up exactly who they are, with whatever fun they bring, whatever version of fun they bring, or whatever warts and challenges that they have on that particular day. I mean, we all bond so much more when we show a little bit of vulnerability.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I love that, because vulnerability doesn't come with a price. It just comes with you showing up, and whether or not you feel like this is the right person or right community and environment to be vulnerable.
yeah,
But it's part of the authentic picture that we're creating, right?
absolutely. Well, I'm ready for the part of our conversation that is my quick fire questions to you. Are
Yes.
you ready?
I'm
All
ready.
right. Um, what is a book or a podcast that has deeply influenced you?
Book or podcast. I follow all of Simon Sinek's work. So Simon Sinek's Find Your Why was huge for me. Um, there was another book though that I just recently read. Oh, it's actually right here. The Seeker's Code by Donnie Epstein.
Uh-huh.
This is an amazing, amazing, amazing book. He does a beautiful job talking about energy and what you're allowing into the conversations, both professionally and personally. And I just finished this, and this is an
Ooh.
extremely, extremely great read.
Ooh, I'm excited. Who's that by?
Donnie Epstein.
Okay, great. What is your favorite non-alcoholic drink?
Ooh, I have been very keen to lemonades, so I either am trying the matcha lemonades these days, or I will go for a
Ooh.
dragon fruit lemonade, and that is amazing.
Ooh, never had that. I'm down for it. Beach vacation or mountain retreat?
Oh, beach vacation, always. I live in San Diego. I'm always by the water.
What is your favorite childhood or adult board game?
Uno. Oh, board game. Mm. I was really good at checkers. That was something I was good at as a kid. Now, as an adult, I
Oh,
play Uno, and I'm the champion. I will say that.
oh, I love Uno. My son lives in Honduras, and I was down there about 6 months ago, and we were playing Uno with a bunch of people because it breaks the language barrier. And it was
Yeah,
so fun to be able to play with people because I don't speak Spanish. And so just be able to play a game with people without having that language barrier.
yeah.
Um, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Probably to have psychic abilities. It would make my job a little easier.
Okay. Well, and on the flip side of that, what is the weirdest talent that you have?
I can crack all my knuckles at once. I don't think you can hear it, but they will all crack if I
Oh my
close
gosh,
my fists. I don't
that
think you
is
can hear
really cool. No, but that is really cool.
it. Yeah, I've been able to do that since I was a kid. I thought I was double jointed, and then it was just everything cracks and ripples.
I love it. Well, as we wrap things up, is there anything else that you wanted to share or thoughts that you've had for our listeners?
Yes, I think first off, thank you so much, Margie, for having me on today. I think what you and Laura have created and the community that you're creating is just a beautiful impression and imprint of who you two are as individuals and leaders in our community. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for being a part of this. And I just want to really give a shout out to all those that are listening that are looking at reestablishing their relationship with alcohol and how they can fine tune it and either be a sober partner or a soberish partner like me and really flock to the community that we're creating to create the safe space for people just to have fun. We're talking about experience sharing, and this is how we do it, is have those experiences.
Excellent. Well, thank you for those kind words. And we are thrilled to have you along as a sober wingman and sober curious, I think I've heard you say. So
Yeah.
thank you for the time today. And I appreciate you and I appreciate your enthusiasm and what you bring to this space. So we will see you all next time.
Thank you for joining us on Morning Smiles podcast. Remember, every decision you make today shapes the smiles of your tomorrows. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social. No one needs to do this alone. Here's to making choices that brighten your world and your morning smiles.